How did one animal group dominate oceans for 270 million years? In our last episode, you witnessed the Cambrian explosion, when life diversified at breakneck speed, creating virtually every major animal body plan in just 10 to 25 million years. You met the apex predator Anomalocaris, the five-eyed Opabenia, and the spiny Hallucic. But among all these innovations, one group stood out for its immediate success and long-term dominance: the Trilobite. This episode focuses on these armored arthropods who mastered the art of survival, diversified into thousands of species, and ruled Paleozoic oceans for 270 million years. You'll discover what made them so successful, how they lived, and why they ultimately disappeared. Imagine a group of animals so successful they survived for 270 million years, longer than dinosaurs, longer than mammals have existed, nearly as long as all complex animals combined before them. A group that diversifies into over 20,000 known species, inhabits every ocean environment from tropical reefs to polar depths, and becomes the most abundant visible fossil in the geological record. That group was the Trilobite. When you pick up a fossil and it's not a shell or a bone, chances are it's a Trilobite. These armored arthropods are found on every continent, in rocks spanning from the Cambrian to the Permian, a 250 million years of continuous success. What made Trilobites so dominant? Why did they thrive when so many other Cambrian experiments failed? And if they were so successful, why did they ultimately go extinct? The answer lies in their remarkable versatility. Trilobites weren't specialized for one environment or lifestyle. They were generalists who could adapt to almost anything. They could crawl, swim, burrow, filter feed, scavenge, or hunt. They lived in shallow, tropical lagoons and deep cold basins. They were small as grains of rice and large as dinner plates. Trilobites mastered the fundamental rule of evolutionary success: flexibility, and for 270 million years, that flexibility made them unstoppable until it didn't. Evolution, from simple ancestors to complex masters. Where did Trilobites come from? How did they evolve into such successful organisms? The Arthropod Foundation. Trilobites belong to the Arthropods, a massive group that today includes insects, spiders, crustaceans, and centipedes. What defines an arthropod? Three key features: a segmented body, jointed appendages, and a hard external skeleton, exoskeleton, made of chitin and often reinforced with minerals. These features all appeared during the early Cambrian, probably evolving from soft-bodied worm-like ancestors. The earliest protoarthropods had segmented bodies with simple paired legs, but they lacked hard exoskeletons and sophisticated sensory organs. Why did segmentation matter? Because it allowed modular body construction. Each segment could evolve independently, specializing for different functions. Some segments could develop sensory organs, others grasping appendages, still others swimming paddles. This modularity was the key to arthropod versatility. The Trilobite emerges. Trilobites appeared very early in the Cambrian, around 521 million years ago. The earliest known Trilobite, Phalotaspis, was already fully formed, complete, with compound eyes, segmented body, and calcite exoskeleton. This suggests Trilobites evolved slightly earlier, perhaps from unmineralized ancestors that left no fossils. What made trilobites distinct from other early arthropods? Their three-lobed body plan, hence trilobite. Their calcite exoskeleton, most arthropods use chitin, and their sophisticated compound eyes made of transparent calcite crystals. The calcite exoskeleton was revolutionary. Unlike chitin, which is organic and flexible, calcite is mineral hard, durable, and fossilization. This gave trilobites excellent protection and ensured their fossil preservation, which is why we know so much about them compared to other Cambrian arthropods. Rapid diversification. Once trilobites appeared, they diversified explosively. By the Middle Cambrian, just 10 million years later, dozens of distinct trilobite families existed, each adapted to different environments and lifestyles. Some developed flat, wide bodies for gliding over soft mud. Others became streamlined for swimming. Still others evolved long spines, probably for defense or flotation. Some grew enormous compound eyes for hunting in dim waters. Others lost their eyes entirely, adapting to complete darkness in deep oceans or caves. This rapid diversification followed a classic evolutionary pattern. When a successful body plan enters empty ecological space, it radiates into countless variations, each exploiting a different niche. Trilobites filled niches as predators, scavengers, filter feeders, and detritus processors. They occupied shallow shores, mid-depth shelves, and deep basins. Three major evolutionary phases. Trilobite evolution can be divided into three phases. Phase 1, Cambrian, 521-485 million years ago, maximum experimentation, bizarre body forms, extreme spines, unusual eye arrangements. Trilobites were trying everything. Phase 2, Ordovician Devonian, 485 to 360 million years ago. Peak diversity and dominance. Thousands of species across all environments. Trilobites were everywhere. Phase 3, Carboniferous Permian, 360 to 252 million years ago, declined. Diversity decreased as competition from fish and other arthropods intensified. By the late Permian, only a few families remained. The entire 270 million year story is one of early innovation, prolonged dominance, and gradual decliner classic evolutionary arc. The legs, hidden but crucial. Trilobite legs are rarely preserved because they weren't mineralized like the upper shell, but exceptional fossils reveal their structure. Each leg was biramous, having two branches. The inner branch was a walking leg with joints ending in a claw for gripping surfaces. The outer branch was a gill-bearing paddle for swimming and respiration. This dual-purpose design allowed trilobites to walk and breathe simultaneously. As they moved, the legs created water flow over the gills, extracting oxygen. Swimming trilobites beat their legs rhythmically, propelling themselves forward while also internal anatomy, complex but efficient digestive system. The mouth opened underneath the head, behind the head. Food passed into a simple esophagus, leading to a stomach in the anterior body. From there, a straight or slightly looped intestine extended through the axial lobe to an anus near the tail. The digestive system was simple but effective, appropriate for organisms eating small particles, detritus, or soft-bodied prey that didn't require extensive processing. Circulatory system. Trilobites had an open circulatory system. A tubular heart ran along the dorsal top midline within the axial lobe, pumping hemolymph blood forward through arteries. The hemolymph then flowed through body cavities, bathing organs directly before returning to the heart. The hemolymph carried nutrients, oxygen, and waste products. It likely contained hemocyanina, copper-based oxygen transport molecule that turns blue when oxygenated, similar to modern horseshoe crabs and crustaceans. Nervous system: the brain, a cerebral ganglion, sat in the glabella, processing sensory information from the eyes, antennae, and legs. Large optic nerves connected the eyes to the brain, some species. These nerves were so large they left visible grooves in fossil skulls. From the brain, a ventral nerve cord ran along the underside through the entire body length. Each segment had a paired ganglion controlling local leg movements, allowing decentralized coordinations. Segments could function semi-independently, useful if part of the body was injured. Respiratory system: gills attached to the outer branches of the legs absorbed dissolved oxygen from water. As legs moved, whether walking or swimming, water flowed continuously over the gills, maintaining gas exchange. This system was efficient, but limited trilobites to aquatic environments. Unlike some arthropods, insects, spiders that evolved air-breathing, trilobites never left the oceans. This limitation may have contributed to their eventual decline as terrestrial ecosystems developed. Size range from tiny to giant. Most trilobites were modest 3 to 10 centimeters long, about the size of your thumb to palm. These were the generalists, abundant in countless environments. Some were much smaller, less than a centimeter, perhaps feeding on microorganisms or living in crevices where larger species couldn't compete. A few were giants. Isotellus rex from the Ordovician reached 70 centimeters, over 2 feet, among the largest arthropods of the Paleozoic. These giants were probably predators or scavengers, using size to access food sources unavailable to smaller species. Behavior: life as a trilobite. How did trilobites actually live? Their behavior varied enormously depending on species and environment, but we can reconstruct general patterns. Feeding strategies: versatile diets. Trilobites employed multiple feeding strategies. Deposit feeding: many trilobites crawled across the seafloor, using their legs to stir up sediment and capture small organisms, detritus or organic particles suspended in the water. The legs would pass food forward to the mouth in a conveyor belt motion. Filter feeding: some species used specialized leg structures to filter tiny particles from water. As they walked or swam, the legs created currents that flowed through filtering setter hair-like structures, capturing plankton or organic matter. Scavenging: larger trilobites probably scavenged dead animals. Their strong legs could tear apart soft tissues, and their grinding hypostomes could process tougher materials. Predation evidence suggests some trilobites were active predators. Species with large eyes, streamlined bodies, and grasping hypostomes may have hunted worms, small arthropods, or soft-bodied organisms. Some trilobite fossils show healed bite marks from predators, and occasionally trilobite fossils are found with damaged prey, items evidence of failed predation attempts preserved in the fossil record. Grazing: some trilobites may have grazed on algae or bacterial mats covering rocks, similar to modern sea urchins or snails. The dietary versatility meant trilobites could survive in nearly any environment with available organic matter, key to their long-term success. Movement, crawling, swimming, and burrowing. Crawling, most trilobites were bottom dwellers, crawling across the seafloor on their many legs. The segmented body allowed flexibility over uneven surfaces, and the clawed legs provided secure grip on rocks or soft sediment. Swimming, streamlined species with large pygidia could swim by beating their legs in coordinated waves, similar to how modern shrimp or lobsters swim backward by flexing their tails. Swimming trilobites probably hunted in the water column or migrated between habitats, burrowing. Some trilobites could burrow into sediment either to hide from predators, find food, or escape unfavorable conditions. Trace fossils show trilobite burrows U-shaped tunnels, or shallow scrapes where animals partially buried themselves. Enrollment, the ultimate defense. When threatened, many trilobites could enroll rolling into a tight ball with the head and tail shields meeting, protecting the soft legs and underside. This defense was so effective that enrolled trilobites are among the most common fossils animals dying while enrolled, preserved in their defensive posture. Not all species could enroll completely. Some could only partially curl. Others, particularly flat or spiny species, couldn't enroll at all and relied on different defenses. Reproduction, external fertilization. Trilobites reproduced sexually through external fertilization, similar to modern horseshoe crabs. Males released sperm into the water, and females released eggs, with fertilization occurring externally. Some fossils show trilobites in aggregations, possibly spawning groups gathering to reproduce. This behavior, still seen in horseshoe crabs, increases fertilization success by concentrating gametes in a small area. Growth, molting through life stages. Like all arthropods, trilobites grew through molting periodically, shedding their exoskeleton to grow larger. A trilobite would split its shell along predetermined lines, pull itself out, and expand its soft, new exoskeleton before it hardened. Molting was dangerous. Trilobites were vulnerable to predation during the soft-shell stage, but it was necessary for growth. Trilobites passed through distinct life stages. Protastopod stage, tiny larvae, sometimes less than a millimeter, with unsegmented or poorly segmented bodies. Moraspod stage, juveniles gradually adding segments with each molt, approaching adult form. Holospod stage, adults with full segment count, continuing to grow but no longer adding segments. Fossil sites sometimes preserve complete growth, series dozens of molted shells from a single individual's lifetime, showing its progression from larva to adult. Social behavior, limited but present. Trilobites weren't social in the sense of cooperation or communication, but they did aggregate in favorable areas, creating dense populations where food, oxygen, or substrate conditions were optimal. Some fossil sites show mass mortality events, dozens or hundreds of trilobites preserved together, possibly killed by sudden storms, toxic algal blooms, or rapid burial. These aggregations suggest trilobites sometimes concentrated in large numbers. Adaptation, mastering every environment. What made trilobites so successful for so long? Their ability to adapt to virtually any marine environment. Adaptation to depth, from shallows to abyss. Trilobites occupied all depth zones, shallow reefs and lagoons, well lit, warm, oxygen, rich, but exposed to storms and temperature fluctuations. Shallow water trilobites typically had large eyes, robust bodies, and sometimes bright color patterns, though color rarely preserves in fossils. Chemical analysis sometimes reveals pigment traces. Continental shelf, mid-depth, moderate light, stable temperatures, high productivity. This was Trilobite, prime habitat. Most species lived here, with maximum diversity and abundance. Deep basins, cold, dark, low oxygen, but stable. Deep water trilobites often had reduced or absent eyes, elongated bodies, and specialized respiratory systems for oxygen tolerance. Some species migrated vertically, living in deep water during the day, rising to shallower waters at night to feed. This behavior, called diel vertical migration, is still common in modern zooplankton and some crustaceans. Adaptation to temperature. Tropical to polar, trilobites inhabited all temperature zones. Tropical species, diverse, often ornate with spines and ridges. Tropical trilobites show maximum morphological variety. Evolution experiments freely in stable, productive environments. Temperate species, moderate diversity, generalist body forms, often showing seasonal migration patterns. Polar species, low diversity but sometimes high abundance. Polar trilobites tend toward simple, robust forms optimized for cold water physiology. The ability to tolerate wide temperature ranges through physiological flexibility meant trilobites could colonize new areas as continents drifted and climates changed. The key to long-term survival. Adaptation to substrate, mud, sand, reef. Different substrates required different body forms. Soft mud, flat, wide trilobites that wouldn't sink like snowshoes, distributing weight over large surface area. Sand, streamlined trilobites that could burrow or push through loose sediment. Rocky reefs, robust trilobites with strong legs and gripping claws for maintaining position in currents. Some species specialize so completely to one substrate they couldn't survive in others. But the group as a whole occupied every substrate type, ensuring that environmental changes affecting one habitat wouldn't eliminate all trilobites. Adaptation to oxygen levels, tolerance, and flexibility. Oxygen levels fluctuated throughout the Paleozoics, sometimes higher than today, sometimes lower. Trilobites adapted through physiological flexibility, altering metabolic rates, increasing gill surface area, or adjusting hemolymph chemistry to maximize oxygen extraction. Behavioral responses, moving to better oxygenated areas, reducing activity during oxygen periods, or burrowing into oxygenated sediment layers. Evolutionary changes. Species in chronically oxygen environments evolved larger gills, slower metabolisms, or different body proportions, optimizing oxygen uptake. Adaptation to predation. The arms race. As new predators evolved, eurypterids, sea scorpions, early fish, nautiloids, trilobites adapted. Thicker armor, shell thickness increased in response to predators with crushing jaws or powerful claws. Defensive spines, longinal spines, thoracic spines, or pygital spines made trilobites difficult to grasp or swallow. Enrollment perfection. Species facing intense predation evolved tighter, more complete enrollment capabilities. Camouflage. Some trilobites develop textures or patterns matching their substrata. This is speculative, since color and texture don't usually preserve. Speed, streamlined species could swim rapidly away from danger. The predator-prey arms race drove trilobite evolution for millions of years. Every new predator capability prompted defensive innovations. Extinction, the long decline and final disappearance. If trilobites were so successful, why did they go extinct? The answer is complex, not a single catastrophe, but a long decline culminating in final extinction. Phase 1, Ordovician-Silurian mass extinctions 445 and 443 million years ago. The late Ordovician saw two major extinction pulses caused by rapid climate change glaciation, followed by warming. Many trilobite families went extinct, though the group recovered with new radiations in the surface. This demonstrated that trilobites could survive major extinctions, but were vulnerable to rapid environmental change. Phase 2, Devonian challenges 419359 million years ago. The Devonian was the age of fishes. Jawed fish diversified explosively, becoming dominant predators and competitors. Fish had advantages. Trilobites lacked advanced vision, sophisticated jaws, faster swimming, and eventually some colonized fresh water and land. Trilobite diversity declined as fish competition intensified. Species inhabiting fish-accessible environments suffered most. Trilobites persisted mainly in deeper waters or specialized niches where fish were less common. Phase 3, Carboniferous decline 359299 million years ago. By the Carboniferous, trilobites were rare. Only a few families remained, mostly in deep or cold waters. The continental shelves, once trilobite strongholds, were now dominated by fish, crustaceans, and other arthropods. Why couldn't trilobites compete? Several factors. Physiological limitations. Trilobite respiration through leg gills was less efficient than fish gills. Fish could sustain higher activity levels. Reproductive disadvantage. Trilobites had external fertilization and no parental care. Fish, especially sharks and some bony fish, developed internal fertilization and sometimes parental care, increasing offspring survival. Morphological constraints. The trilobite body plan was constrained by its calcite, exoskeleton, and segmented structure. Fish had greater morphological flexibility. They could evolve jaws, fins, swim bladders, and countless other innovations. Trilobites were limited to variations on a theme. Phase 4, Permian extinction 252 million years ago. The final blow came at the Permian-Triassic boundary, the worst mass extinction in Earth's history, killing over 90% of marine species. The causes were catastrophic. Massive volcanism in Siberia released enormous amounts of CO2 and toxic gases, triggering global warming, ocean acidification, and widespread anoxia oxygen depletion. Ocean chemistry became hostile. The calcite trilobites needed for their shells became difficult to precipitate in acidified waters. The few remaining trilobite families couldn't survive these extreme conditions. By the end of the Permian, trilobites were extinct ending 270 million years of dominance. Why complete extinction? Why didn't at least some trilobites survive in refuges and recover like some other groups? Several reasons. Low diversity. By the Permian, only a handful of species remained. Low diversity means low genetic variation, fewer tools for adaptation. Specialized niches, surviving Permian trilobites were mostly specialists in specific, deep, or cold environments. When those environments collapsed, specialists had nowhere to go. Competition, even if some trilobites survived the extinction event itself. They'd face a recovery period dominated by more adaptable competitors: fish, crustaceans, mollusks. Trilobites no longer had competitive advantages. Current status: extinct but immortalized. Trilobites are completely extinct. The last species died 252 million years ago, 146 million years before the first dinosaurs appeared. But their legacy is profound. Trilobites taught us about arthropod evolution, compound eye optics, and marine ecosystems. Their index fossils markers helping geologists date rock layers. Their collector favorites: beautiful, diverse, and readily available. Every time you see a modern horseshoe crab, the closest living relative to trilobites, sure seeing an echo of ancient success. Horseshoe crabs aren't direct descendants, but they share the arthropod heritage trilobites helped establish. Trilobites proved that evolutionary success isn't about perfection, it's about versatility, adaptability, and being good enough at many things rather than perfect at one thing. For 270 million years, that strategy worked. When conditions finally exceeded their adaptive capacity, they disappeared. But for a 250 million years, trilobites were masters of the ancient seas. Trilobites were the first group to demonstrate sustained evolutionary success over hundreds of millions of years. Their rise, dominance, and decline teach us fundamental lessons about evolution, adaptation, and extinction. In our next episode, we'll meet another Cambrian predator, Nomalocaris, and its relatives, the apex predators who ruled before fish, who developed the first sophisticated hunting strategies, and whose innovations set the template for predation that persists today. Trilobites were the masters of adaptation, but predators drove the arms race that made adaptation necessary. The story continues. This is HistoPrimordia, where history comes alive. Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and join us for the next episode's story.